Hello, everybody, and welcome to our comics preview show. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So every Tuesday, after we're done bagging and boarding and sorting all the comics, we divide up all the ones we think that people will like to hear the most about. We read them, and we try to tell you about them in a fairly spoiler-free way.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to connect the readers who want a certain story, certain art style with the books that will provide that without taking away all the fun of reading it for
Right.
yourself. So that's what this show is all about. I think it's a pretty average size week this week.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of number ones and big ones, but a lot of continuations of stories that have been
Yeah,
going
and
on.
celebratory issues like my Wonder Woman 80th.
Mm-hmm.
So this is some of the books we'll be doing. We have a bunch more off to the side. I think we're going to be going over somewhere between like 18 and 20 books
Yeah.
today. Before we start, let's talk about something else, though. So, this is the first week that comic stores could get their Marvel books through a new distributor, the
Mm-hmm.
first time in like 20 years.
Yeah.
So, Marvel books have been coming from Diamond all this time. Diamond has done what I think most would say to be somewhat of a shaky job in a lot of ways, but they've gotten the books into our
Mm-hmm.
hands. We ain't haters or anything. So Marvel lately has signed on with Penguin Random House. And this is the first week the books are coming in, and this has caused quite a stir online. So some of you might have heard that there have been excessive amounts of damaging to the books because they're packaged different. This is a new company. They haven't been doing comics. They do periodicals, they do magazines,
Yeah.
books, trades. So we can't speak for every store, but we can say that our store, the way we got them, I mean, you were here when they
Yeah.
arrived. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell everybody?
Yeah. They came in. I don't think we had any damages from what I could tell. Packaged well.
Yeah.
I we personally did not have a problem with them. I've seen reports from different stores that have had varying degrees of damages or not damages, but
So once again, this is just the Marvel books.
yes.
Everything else is the same, just the Marvel books. We can't say that any stores, I mean, if they had different experiences, that's terrible. But at least for ours, we
Hmm.
hopefully lucked out or more than
Yeah.
lucked out. So just wanted to let people know that because we've already had people calling, asking, questioning. The other thing is, Diamond is getting their books through Marvel Penguin Random House
Right.
as well, all their Marvel books. So it's sort of the question is some people have been asking, well, if a store's getting it still from Diamond, would it be in better shape? We don't know because it seems like they're getting their stuff from the same source we are, that they're just a middleman who gets a better discount.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of rundown. We could go into it deeper some other time,
Hmm.
but that's what we know so far. We ask everyone just give your stores some leeway on this. Like, just let's wait a few weeks, see how all this evens out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the
It's just
very
the first
least,
week. It's just
yeah,
the first
yeah,
week. There may be some hiccups here and there, but they'll get it ironed out.
correct. Yeah, that's what I hope to. And at the very least, we're one store that can say we got all our stuff just fine.
Hmm.
Okay, so what are you going over first, Andy?
First up is a big one I've been really anticipating. I feel like I say that every week, but I also always start with ones I'm really anticipating. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 75.
New team.
New team. This uh other times Marvel would have rebranded this a number 1, but they've decided to continue on with the numbering, but this is definitely a new jumping on point. So, we had Nick Spencer's run of Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 74, a long run, did a lot of things, but now we are getting into this next generation, this next incarnation of Amazing Spider-Man, and this time bringing back Ben Riley as a pretty big protagonist in this. So I'll spoil a little bit of the previous Amazing Spider-Man because that run is over now.
Mm.
But the way it left it, I'll say there was a death of a character, not Peter Parker, where a lot of people thought that maybe something big was going to happen to Peter at the end of the previous one. It didn't, but it was a death that did shake up Peter and Mary Jane and the characters who were close to this character that died. So rather than Peter being out of commission like we kind of thought he would be, he's still Spider-Man in this. Although he's kind of working through some issues with all of the stuff that previously happened. But uh, this is cool because it starts with Peter kind of going through his issues and saying, this is my favorite spot on this building, and up here I am all by myself. Well, suddenly another Spider-Man swings by, and we see that Ben Reilly and Peter Parker are going to be pretty major players in this book. This is now a city with 2 Spider-Men. And, I mean, there's more Spider-Man than that. You got Miles, you got everything, but taking over the Amazing Spider-Man mantle. So Peter has kind of a, like, hey, what's Ben Reilly doing here? They actually have a very interesting conversation, and I won't give it away, but through the conversation you learn that Ben Reilly is now legally Spider-Man. Where Peter is, I guess now he's just this faker being Spider-Man. Ben Reilly legally has the rights to be Spider-Man, and he's more not asking Peter's permission. He's telling him, "Sorry, this is the way things are now."
I see a new Spider-Man book coming up, the litigious Spider-Man.
Yes, they're just
Spider-Man behind his lawyers,
firing a court battle with copyrights and everything, but. That leads into this corporation called the Beyond Corporation. It's on the covers of all this. There's been advertisements for the Beyond Corporation. They are basically what is behind this new Spider-Man. They are providing Ben Reilly with housing. If you read the end of the previous issue, they got his love interest who was in jail out of jail. She's now living with him in this grand place. And they are supplying him with this costume that is very retrofitted to deal with a lot of the stuff Spider-Man has to deal with. Maybe even better than Peter Parker's Spider-Man costume. They've got a whole team backing him up. So, for all intents and purposes, Ben Reilly is now Spider-Man. You'll see how that plays out in this issue. I have to mention the artwork in this by Patrick Gleason is phenomenal. It's some of the best artwork I've seen in Amazing Spider-Man in a long time. No slight against the previous team, but you could tell Gleason had probably a lot of lead-in time to make this issue just stand out and be incredible. This also does have 2 backup stories in it. This is about $1 more than a Spider-Man comic usually is, but the backup stories are not throwaway stories. They're actually part of what's going to be going forward in this run of Spider-Man. So we know that there's going to be issues coming up that involve Misty Knight, help training Ben Reilly. We get a little Misty Knight story about what she's been up to. And we also get another story that deals with someone who was formerly in Ben Reilly's life and how they're bringing them back in there. So if you're not familiar with a lot of Ben Reilly's supporting characters, they do a good job at bringing you up to speed, and it seems like going forward they're going to be fleshing those characters out as well. But highly recommend this issue. I really loved it. I'm very excited about this new run of Amazing Spider-Man going forward. I know there's going to be a lot of different writers. This one is by Zeb Wells, and Patrick Gleason does the art. But this is going to be coming out, I believe, 3 times a month.
Yep, 3 times a month.
3 times a month. So you're going to be getting a rotating writers and artists. But I feel like the companies now are better prepared to deal with that. Used to, we would get some of that, and it would be a little shaky because you get multiple voices. But if we learned anything from, like, Avengers No Surrender and, what was it called? Road Home.
No Road Home.
No Road Home. They know how to now balance the writers, and you'll have different writers taking on different characters, different plot points, and everything. So I really have high hopes for this going forward. If this issues any indication? I don't know why I tried to throw a C in there. Indication of Spider-Man going forward. I think this is going to be an awesome time.
Yeah, I can confirm that as Andy was reading it, he was gushing over the art. He was
showing
me parts.
There's a 2-page spread that is like, okay, I see where you have been spending your time. You're proving yourself to people that this is a Spider-Man book worth reading. So, also, of course, since this is 75, but a new jumping on point and everything, there's going to be a lot of variant covers that come with this. And definitely have to talk about this one first
Yes.
because this is a big deal for us. This is the Alex Ogle Amazing Spider-Man variant, and we will be having Alex on a video. Um, be on the lookout, coming very, very soon. I don't know when you're watching this one, but for us, it will be tomorrow.
Yes.
Talking about the cover.
On release day.
On release
the very
day.
release day of this, Alex is going to be with us.
So he's a great friend of ours, and very excited that he's going to be talking about working with Marvel, possibly even his time working on some of the stuff that had to do with the movies, his cover process, what makes a good cover. So much really cool stuff that you'll have to stay around to see, but highly recommend. I mean, in this case, I would say buy this cover instead of the A cover. Very few cases I would say that, but to support Alex, pick this one up. But there's also actually buy all of them. Buy every cover because they're all great. So we have the Patrick Gleason cover in his
cool.
Webhead series, and if you can barely see it, but under the eyes, it actually says Amazing Spider-Man in webs. Can't imagine how long it took to do that and be happy with it and look right. It has such a cool look to it. We have the Ron Lim cover, of course. And you see Ben Reilly there in his original, his cut-off sleeve hoodie. And this does also have a preview in the back of it. There is a new Ben Reilly Spider-Man miniseries coming in January of next year that's going to explore more of the time frame of when he was originally Spider-Man. So it feels like they're really building him up in a big way. We have the Marvel Masterpiece Jusko variant with Hobgoblin. The Inhyuk Lee variant. And then we have some really nice ratio variants. We have this is the 1 in 100 Inhyuk Lee Virgin variant that we have for $50. We have both of these are so good. This is the 1 in 25 Friends variant. This one's just so cool. This is the 1 in 50 Hidden Gem variant, the Ditko variant. So all the way back to Ditko. We're selling that one for $45.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with my favorite Marvel read of the week, which is Dark Ages #2. The sort of mini event series by Tom Taylor. I believe it's going to be 6 issues. And so in issue #1, we got our setup, which is that there was this godlike creature called the Unmaker who was destroying the world. So Doctor Strange had to unleash this sort of EMP magical device to cut off all electricity, because that's what the monster was feeding on. But in doing that, it got caught in this loop where it will never turn off, and I mean ever. So all electricity in the world gone for good, but at least the Unmaker was stopped. However, the issue 1 ended kind of showing, okay, well, now we're going to take you to 7 years later. This is 7 years after the world no longer has electricity, which is a huge deal, not just for the heroes, but the way that people live. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about if our world lost electricity, we would be back to sort of the Dark Ages. Mm-hmm. And that's what Tom Taylor's exploring in this, is what would happen in a world with superheroes, but set in the Dark Ages, the title of the book itself. So what I like in this one is you assume that it's going to get very brutal and warlike. Tom Taylor actually paints a different picture. He says, yes, there was a lot of war at first. Billions of people died in wars. Heroes, regular people. There was a lot of fighting over who ran what countries, people trying to expand, people trying to rule in different ways. But after that, it gets better, funny enough. And that's kind of where our story begins, is with the population so low again because of all the warring. I hope this is not Tom Taylor's way of saying that wars are good. But, all the wars happen, the population's low, no one has the sort of like factory jobs anymore. Like everyone's jobs make a little more sense because you're not just like working for Amazon or
Mhm.
something. You know, everyone's working with their hands again. Everyone's farming. Everyone's doing that. So lower population, less people to support. Everyone with jobs that kind of make a little more sense in a world like that. Um, Also, the environment has gotten better with no electricity, pretty much, no pollution. And so things have actually gotten good for those who have seen their way through the really, really bad
Mhm.
times, which is cool. Some of the other stuff in this one is so in a world with no electricity, what evil would sort of come to the forefront? Well, creatures of darkness,
Mm.
vampires, werewolves.
They're loving
So
it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're right home in this world. And what's cool is so some hero teams you'll have to read about have formed specifically to fight those. And I'm sure you can already guess a few characters
Mm.
who would lead teams to go up against werewolves, vampires. But seeing the teams they put together, I really enjoyed that part. Lastly, though, this issue is still a little bit of a setup because there is a greater evil lurking in the dark than even the werewolves and vampires. I think if you've seen the covers, enough of the variants, you probably can guess who the main villain is.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say. But by the end of this issue, Tony Stark learns who this villain is. He learns what the plan is and what other people are helping this villain. And all of it was very shocking. All of it, I was like, oh no, uh-oh. So really good read. I quite enjoyed it. I think anyone who even halfway liked issue one is going to like issue two is better than issue one. That's
Mm.
what I can say.
And
The
you liked
series
issue
is
one.
improving.
Yeah.
I did, but it was a setup issue. This one has more of the forward momentum that you want. This has me really, really just ready for issue number three. So that is my review. We've got the Hetrick variant with the character who you might see in this issue. And then I also have this 1 in 25 hitch variant for we're selling to our customers for $30 while supplies last. And yeah, Peter Parker is still in it with his daughter May.
That's cool.
Yep.
It's good to have some familiar faces. So, my next book is probably one of the scariest books I've read in a while. And scary is as in like inside the mind of the murderer. So this is it's the full title: Arkham City: The Order of the World #1. This is a new miniseries, a 6-issue miniseries from DC. But it is in continuity. I was surprised to see that. This does take place after the events of A-Day. I mean, they're really that one event has set up so much material for these writers.
Yeah.
Um, and with this one, turns out some of the inmates of Arkham Asylum have escaped. Not too many of them. I mean, most of them died in there. Most of the psychiatrists in there died, everything, but there are some inmates that got out. Even some ones that it even talks about you kind of just passed by. They'd been in there so long. They were
Right.
just kind of part of the scenery, part of the daily ritual. But what happens when those get out? So we follow a new character, I believe. I couldn't find where she appeared anywhere else. Dr. Jocasta Joy. And she was a big psychiatrist and doctor at Arkham Asylum who really understood the inmates, probably better than anyone did. And now it's kind of her job to use her knowledge about these inmates to figure out what they're doing, where they are. She talks about some of them would have gone into hiding. They're scared now that they're out in the world. They haven't been. This is a new Gotham. They've been in there so long. But a lot of them would have returned to their old ways. So we see characters like Professor Pig. I mean, one of the scariest Batman villains, back to his old ways. And she's narrating about what they do, what their mindsets are. This is very much like well, you think of it almost like a Netflix documentary about serial killers or just uh, inmates and how the mind works. So we get a lot of really interesting insights, but also it's being narrated by another character that is one that, if it is the same character as the original one, is a character back from the 60s, but very different and probably one of the most horrifying characters I've seen DC put out in a while, who have some abilities that are pretty shocking. So the art in this is very unique. It's a very unique style. Very much would have been like an older Vertigo series, um, almost like a old Jason Aaron, like a Scout type book, or um, Eduardo Rizzo. Very much in that style, but works perfect with this because it's a very crime gritty look at all of this. I didn't know going into this what to think about it, but afterwards, this is one of my picks of the week. This one and Amazing Spider-Man both were just awesome. I'm now really interested to see where this goes. So if you, I mean, I believe Batman is not in this, and I think they only say his name once. So this is definitely more on the side of Gotham. If you like stuff about Arkham, there was the Grant Morrison series, Arkham Asylum years ago. This kind of is similar to that, but I would say a little bit more narrative driven than the kind of chaos of that book, because you're seeing it from one of the Doctor's standpoints. But highly recommend this one, even in a book where there is a legitimate Halloween book out this week. My award for scariest book goes to Arkham City. So recommended.
I'm looking forward to reading that. Ever since I read about it, I like those lesser known Gotham villains.
Yeah, you get ones
out
like
and on the loose.
Professor Pig, you get Mad Hatter, but you also get some that you'll have to do some research to see what's their deal, what is their abilities, or what's their kind of tropes. So we have a couple of variants for it. We have the Matina variant, and who is that on the cover? Looks like Azrael. You'll have to read it to find out what does Azrael play into this story. And then we have a 1 in 25 black and white variant by artist named Beach. And we are selling this to our customers for $20. You also see on there's a character that I believe had their first appearance in the recent Suicide Squad series. The one that just started, that's only up to 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And plays a role in this as well. So it's cool to see a new character from another book making appearance in this one.
So this week they are releasing Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary issue. This is a 100-page comic that, of course, is in the honor of Wonder Woman. There are 9 stories in this with numerous excellent writers and artists. I have a quick little list to tell you some of the people in this. So you got Tom King, Becky Cloonan, Vida Ayala, Steve Orlando, Mark Waid, Stephanie Phillips, Doc Shaner, and Jim Chung. So 9 different stories. I'll tell you about a few of them. So the first story, for instance, it's a documentary that involves Steve. I'm just losing
Steve Trevor?
Yeah, Steve Trevor. I want to say Taylor. That involves Steve Trevor. He's making it about Wonder Woman. He thinks that she is dead because Wonder Woman's been gone for a while. She's off in the land of the gods, and so this is being made sort of about her life and just sort of to honor her. And in it, they interview a lot of different superheroes, a lot of different people, and get their ideas on what they think of Wonder Woman. At the same time, they have video footage of Wonder Woman talking in different interviews over the era. So I thought that's pretty much the perfect sort of story to do in an 80th anniversary. Is one that's like, the story is a documentary. But it's neat because it has a to be continued ending that you'll have to read. So that one is not over. So these aren't all just one and done. This is, in fact, the next one I'm going to tell you about is not either. There's another story about it's Wonder Woman and Nubia as teenagers. And so you get that story, and by the end of it, it says that it's leading into this new thing called the Adventures of Young Diana. So that's sort of a precursor for that. There's a third story where Wonder Woman and Flash are on a mission with the Justice League, but meanwhile they're talking, and the story has more to do with what they're saying than the actual mission, because Flash is asking her advice on if he should tell Iris who he really is. It's set back then, and Wonder Woman is having to give him advice on this. And I thought that was a cool story. You know, more than just an action story, it's more, you know, these people are friends too,
Yeah.
and they've been through a lot. And what would that conversation be like? Um, there's another story where Lois Lane. This is set, you know, back in history as well. Lois Lane sets Clark Kent up on a blind date with Diana. And
Weird.
yeah, so they end up on a blind date together that Lois had set up. That's a pretty funny one. So that's just four of the stories out of nine of them in there. There's a lot more, but you know, just read it for yourself. This book is $9.99 because it is, you know, 100 pages, so pretty much quadruple size. Now I'm going to go through all the variants because there's a lot of good variants here. I don't know if everyone has the deep pockets to buy all of these, however, so you might just want to look and note which ones you like the best. So the first few are done based off of comic eras. This is the modern variant by Chiang. Then we have the Bronze Age variant by Moore. And of course, after Bronze Age, we're going back to the Silver Age. So they're going to let Cho do that. Cho loves to do his Silver Age variants. Then we have the Golden Age variant by Reader. And so we've gone back as far as we can. So now they're doing inspired by different things. So this is the TV inspired variant by the artist's last name is Staggs. We have the film inspired Murai variant. Then we get to my favorite, the animation inspired Bruce Timm variant. And lastly, this is just the Bartel variant. However, it is a wraparound.
It's the everything variant. It has
So,
all of them in it.
We've got the front, but then we've got the back as well. That is probably my second favorite one.
Yeah.
So now you know all the covers. You'll be prepared to grab up which ones that you want or however many you can afford.
Yeah, looking through there, I mean, they got top talent in that. The Jim Chung, I believe, is the first story in there.
Yep.
Just knocks it out of the park. I mean, there was even some that I'm like, I was looking, I was like, I got to look up who this artist is and see more of their work because it's the first time I'm seeing them, and it's like, this stuff is really good. So my next one is kind of, you know, not a number one or anything. This is actually issue 3 of The Me You Love in the Dark. But this book has very much captured me. Every issue wanting to read it, and I wasn't expecting that. This is such a different feeling of a comic. This is not dialogue heavy. It's not even very narrative heavy. We haven't crossed a ton of time, or a lot of things haven't really happened in it, but it's still great. So it follows, of course, this girl named Ro, who is a painter, a pretty famous painter, but has kind of hit a block in her creativity and goes to this old decrepit house out in the country to get inspired. While she's been there, discovered that it is haunted, but this ghost is a very, very polite, very well-spoken ghost. She doesn't really see him. He's more of a shadowy figure, but in this one, it's been some time since she's been at this house. She's been working on her paintings because now she's found the inspiration. And it's funny because I've never seen a haunted house story like this where she is very casually talking to this ghost. It's kind of this ethereal voice that she talks to, but it, talks about, are you almost done painting yet? I want to go do something. And it's like, oh, I'm working on it. I'll be done in a minute. They have a movie night, and it really likes watching this one movie over and over because it's very intrigued by this character. This is a very, it's hard to tell if this is a human spirit or something else, because we did see in the last one a little bit more of it, and it has like a million eyes, and it's, I don't know, it's very weird. it almost gives you a feeling of like Data from Star Trek or something. It's just a little off.
Hmm.
Can converse well enough, but doesn't completely understand. But in this one, some more time passes. You see their relationship grow. They have Halloween together. Um, some kids like run by the house, and she's like, "Why does no one stop at this house?" And he's like, "Well, people say it's haunted." She's like, "That's crazy. It's not." Oh wait, and she realizes that it actually is haunted. They go through Christmas together, but their relationship goes even further in this, where this is definitely turning into a romance. But once again, it seems like the corner is about to turn, and it is going to get dark. So I've been very interested with this. I mean, it's so interesting. This is written by Scotty Young. This is a whole new flavor of
Yeah.
Scotty Young, even different than his Middle West or, um, I Hate Fairyland or any of those. This is a whole new side, and I really enjoyed it. So just wanted to point that out. This is issue 3. They've been doing reprints of issue 1 and 2 because it has been so popular, but if you haven't read it, I recommend this one. It's such a different experience. The artwork is awesome. So that is The Me You Love in the Dark #3.
Okay, so I read the new book by Rick Remender, A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. This is issue #1 from Image Comics, coming out tomorrow. I know a lot of people have been interested in this one and what it is about. So I have some things to say on this, then I have some sort of mysteries to leave you with on this. This book has a lot of showing and not telling. Andy and I, we discuss comics all the time, what we like about them, what we don't like about them. And certain comics, the writing will be so overboard that it's like, man, they're just telling you everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is a visual medium. You're supposed to show. Same with the movie. You don't want a bunch of narration. You'd rather see some really awesome shots
Mm-hmm.
and piece it together yourself. Well, Remender does a great job in this of showing without telling. This book has, I'd say, only half the panels have any written word in them at all, but it's very intentional. It's very much, you got to look at it and what are you looking at? What's happening here? Our main character is not named in this issue. I
Hmm.
don't have a name for him unless I missed it, and I don't think I did. He is just the Asian man on the front, and he is visiting Vancouver, Canada. He is looking for someone having to do with sex trafficking. It seems he is on the righteous quest for vengeance, would be my guess. But not all is revealed in issue 1. But so when you meet a character, it's like, are they good? Are they bad? Often you get that in the writing, but in this, it's more the little actions he does,
Mm-hmm.
the little interactions he has with people. Bumping into someone at the grocery store. Is he a jerk about it? Is he nice about it? That's how you learn this character in this book, and it'd be easy to read it really fast, and you're going to miss that if you read it too fast. That this is somebody showing you rather than telling you, and I do appreciate that in comics. So, what else is this book about? Well, what I can say is you don't really learn exactly why this person is involved. You don't know who he is by the end of it. You don't know, is he a detective? Is he a cop? Where did he come from? You don't get any of that in this issue. Instead, you learn a little bit about his personality, and it ends with a very bloody discovery. By the end, something is discovered that's very disturbing. And I went back, I read it a second time immediately because I just wanted to have that experience again and see if I could figure out more. And I don't think you're supposed to figure out more. This is a mystery. This is clearly a mystery. And you're supposed to leave going, okay, I kind of think this, but I don't know. Remender's keeping you on your toes, waiting for issue #2. So that's the most I can tell you. Really, if I spoiled the whole thing, I don't think I could, really
Yeah.
spoil much because so much of it's my own thought. So if you like sort of mystery crime, I think you might want to check it out. Remender's an excellent writer.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed Seven to Eternity a lot. That's just one of the many things he's done great. But so here we have the variant. This is the variant by Bengal. I'd also like to say the art in this is just very clean and clear art, which works well for this sort of story. I'm going to talk about a different book and a different art style a little later, You know, because you got to match your style up
Yeah,
with what it
very
is.
important.
And I do think that this nice, clean, clear art style works really well for this because he's showing and not telling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wouldn't want to, you know, hard to tell,
Yeah, be worried
furious
you
line
miss something.
style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other variant we have the 1 in 10 green variant, which funny enough is in purple. Green, of course, is the artist's last name, which we're selling for $15.
Nice. So, mentioned it earlier. My next one is a spooky one. We're getting our first one from DC for the Halloween season. This is Are You Afraid of Darkseid? Kind of a play off of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And what you see on the cover is kind of the through story of this. So the Teen Titans have gone camping. It seems definitely like it was Damien's idea to go camping, but some of the other Teen Titans don't really understand why. They're not really into it until Red Arrow suggests they tell scary stories. So that's kind of our setup for this issue. There is 8 stories, all told by different Teen Titans members. Uh, Definitely kind of relating to their side of the DC universe. So you don't know if they're true or not. It seems like a lot of times it's stuff that they overheard happened, especially like Damien has one. He's like, and mine's about Batman, and they're like, we figured, yeah, no surprise there. But there's 8 stories, and I'll go over a couple of them because I really like the first one. The first one is a story about Bloody Mary and some kids going into a house in Gotham to try and summon her, only to find out that, well, they look through a mirror and on the other side is Harley Quinn. Come to find out, maybe Bloody Mary was a real thing and from Apocalypse with Darkseid. She was a Fury, and now Darkseid is looking for her as well as Harley Quinn. So you have a team up of Harley Quinn and Darkseid, which, I mean, I can't think of too many ways you could write that story where those two come together and have to team up. But it is very fun. It's very funny. She has a lot to say to him. So there's a lot of comedy in this as well. None of these are scary, not like the Gotham City book. These are pretty fun. We also get a Batman story with Batman and Mad Hatter. They're very reminiscent of like a Stephen King story. We have a story with Green Lantern. We have a very interesting Phantom Stranger story. There's no panels. It's all full page things of kind of what the Phantom Stranger does and the different people he interacts with that I thought was really interesting. We have a Aquaman and Aqualad story that's kind of as you can imagine, a creature from the deep story. And then we also have a Wonder Woman and Vixen story, as well as a Superman and Lois story, which I thought was great. Really ends strong with the Superman and Lois story going into an old farmhouse. It's more of like a Clark Kent and Lois story that you'll have to read to see. It's fun. These are very superhero driven stories. They pretty much all are them fighting a villain or something. So really fun. This is an extra sized issue. I believe it is. Yes, it's $9.99.
Yeah, a lot of stories in it. Really big. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
season. It's Halloween time.
Yeah.
You know, you grab some Halloween comics. You sit down in front of the your fireplace and you read them. And
Yeah, I would say out of all the months, it seems like Halloween is the most fun when companies take part in it.
Mhm.
I love the Christmas ones. You know, a lot of the companies do Valentine's Day ones or whatever, but they really have fun with their Halloween stories. And I think this is a great one. I would say it's also pretty close to all ages. They probably rate it teen, but I don't think anything in there is too over the top for anyone. So I think this is a fun one too to maybe give out. Not at Halloween, you wouldn't give out. You would go broke doing that. But you know, as a fun Halloween gift to someone younger, you know, or whatever. I think this is a really fun one shot, and only the one cover, which that's what you get with these Halloween ones.
Okay, so I read Defenders #3. So this is a book for those of you who say, "Hey, Marvel doesn't do enough cosmic weirdness." You just need to go ahead and read this issue. And I mean, the previous two, you could kind of tell. Issue 1 eased you in a little bit. Issue 2 got wild. This one goes just bonkers bananas. So last issue, they were up against Omnimax, who is an alternate reality version of a world eater like Galactus, except that he enjoys it. He doesn't feel bad about it. He thinks it's great. Planets are just like hors d'oeuvres to this guy. So they were able to defeat Omnimax last issue, but it flung them into a new place.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, this is Al Ewing just having fun. It's like, oh, I could just do whatever because these are alternate realities. Great. Well, the reality they find themselves in this issue, science is not a thing here. Meaning, there aren't regular laws of physics.
Mm-hmm.
Things don't work at all how you expect. Plus, they have some trouble with their magic right off the bat. With Doctor Strange leading the team, you figure he's going to be able to hold things together. Doctor Strange has been almost useless this series because they've gone to such bizarre, crazy places. But then again, in the first issue, he did the spell that pulled the best defenders together for this mission. And thus you have to wonder, well, why is Harpy on the team? How is she the best defender? Well, you'll find out this issue. Little by little, Ewing is using each of the characters to show this is why they're on the team. This is why they were chosen over anybody else of any other Defender team. Past that, there's not a lot else I can say because it is just so much cosmic craziness that ensues. One thing I will say, I think this series is really well summed up in the final panel. This issue ends with the final panel, a big oh my goodness panel. What you'll see depicted in it is how I would describe the series. It is bizarre. It is like, what in the world? How? I know it'll be explained, but how? Why? What is going on in Al Ewing's mind? If you thought you saw the weirdest from him with Immortal Hulk, some of that stuff, it's still rattling around in his brain. So I don't think this is for everybody. I think this is for people who want a very wild ride, who want a comic you got to pay some attention to, because it almost feels like the environment isn't there because so much weird stuff's going on. Like, I can't tell you if they're standing or sitting or
It's
in
not
the
very
air.
stable.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's what he's going for. That is his intent. And so if you enjoy that sort of thing, you will like it. There is a variant. We sold out of it. So this is all I have to show of it.
Cool. My next one is your Star Wars break for the day. And this week, there was no Marvel Star Wars. It was all IDW Star Wars. So, to begin with, we have Star Wars High Republic Adventures. This is issue 9. Hard to believe we're already at 9. But we saw in the last issue that we are going to Maz Kanata's castle from the sequel trilogy. And we know that Maz Kanata has been alive for so long that it's actually, she's in this. She is a pretty big player in this issue. So this is 200 years plus whatever, another 50 or so years with all the movies. So I thought that was really cool that we get a look at a character who has seen all of this. And now when you watch Force Awakens, you kind of know what she's been through, because there was a lot of questions when that movie came out. It seems like she has a big connection to the Jedi without being a Jedi. This explains that a little further with what is her relationship with Jedi, and it may be closer than we originally thought. So really cool to see that, kind of tying all the different things together. So great issue of that. We have a variant cover for this one. This is the 1 in 10 Levens variant that we are selling for $25. And I wanted to also mention that we have Star Wars Ghosts of Vader's Castle #3. So this is coming out weekly. So I think we have maybe 2 more issues of it.
That's smart of them because October.
Yes. Yeah, great that they actually can fit it into the month. Of course, this is also a series of one-shot stories about the spookier aspects of Star Wars. This one looks like it takes place on Dagobah. I don't know if they ever flat out say that's where it takes place, but you get this character here.
If there's
And
enough swampiness, you know where you
yeah,
are.
so we have that. Maybe a little guest appearance by Yoda in it. Pretty cool stuff with this variant. This is the Charm variant. And Luke is in this one. It's pretty cool to see Luke featured in one of these horror stories. And then for this one, we have the 1 in 10 Francavilla black and white variant that we are selling to our customers for $15.
Okay, so my other favorite read of the week was Batman issue 114. A very good issue. It starts out really, really good. So it begins with Miracle Molly and Poison Ivy having a good conversation. I've enjoyed some of the tiny conversations the characters have, particularly where they're talking a little bit philosophical, and that is what goes on at the beginning of this. Miracle Molly and Poison Ivy talk about if they should and how they should help the citizens of Gotham when they're so easily gripped by fear. Because, you know, Scarecrow is spreading all this misinformation, him and Anti-Oracle, and the people of Gotham apparently are just, they're believing it, and they're giving over all their rights to the Peacekeepers and Simon Saint. And so, of course, Molly believes in insanity, you know, the thing where you erase your memory, and thus you're untethered from all the stuff that was put in you and all the people you're related to and all that, and you can become your more pure self. Whereas Ivy, and you know, I'm going to tell you the overview of this, but hearing their actual words is a lot better. Ivy believes that all the trauma and pain she's been through has been good for her. You know, she's like, "Oh, you deleted all that stuff? No, I want to keep mine because that's what makes me tough." I don't know what I think. You know, there was 2 very good points presented really well, and that's the first like bit of the story, and it's really cool to see some more of Miracle Molly. I think she's a really interesting character. So the rest of it, of course, is Peacekeeper 01 has been infected by Scarecrow's venom toxin, and he's gone crazy. And Scarecrow, as has been revealed in past issues, he's in people's heads somehow. You know, Batman's still trying to figure this out, but he's in their heads. So he's whispering crazy things to him, making him even worse than he would be. So Simon Saint has sent Peacekeeper X to stop him. A lot of this issue is an awesome battle between those 2. I mean, they're both forces to be reckoned with, particularly Peacekeeper X. He is a lot more powerful than I thought he would be. Batman, of course, enters the fray. I will say by the end of the issue, there is a clear winner to that. You know, I like to point that out. In comics, it's usually fight after fight. This person wins, that person wins. Sometimes there's a clear winner. I always like that.
Yeah.
And by the end of this issue, there is that clear winner. Lastly, you get a lot more with Simon Saint in this issue. Now, he's not on the scene, but he is giving the orders, and he's hearing what happens. I've been wondering from the beginning, how evil is he versus how much does he think he's doing good, but doing it in a sort of a fascist way? You get to see him react to things, and I feel like I understand his character a lot more now after this issue of how good he really is versus how twisted or evil he is. So check this one out if you want to kind of finally figure him out a little bit better. Lastly, because I will say with him, it's complicated.
Yeah.
It isn't just, I'm just totally evil, or I'm just totally good and I'm that naive. It's complicated. There's a backup story with Tim Drake and Clown Hunter teaming up that's going to be continued too. So I think that's pretty cool. So Batman 114, an excellent issue, some great dialogue, it's got something for everybody because it's got some great action and some resolution to a few things, although Fear State is far from resolved.
I was about to ask, how long do we have for Fear State now? Because
What was it, issue 117? maybe?
Yeah, because
Is when the team's changing?
Tynan's done in December, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we only have maybe a couple more issues of his Batman run left.
Yeah, I think there's 2 more, maybe
Okay.
3.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, with it so full steam ahead, how does he wrap it up in these couple issues?
Well, I mean, Scarecrow wasn't in this one a lot. His effects are in it. So I think we're going to get back to Scarecrow
Yeah.
now. And, you could kind of wrap things up in 2 good issues, I think.
Yeah.
So we have the Melina variant with Ghost Hunter, who is not in this issue. Or Ghost Maker.
Ghostmaker.
And
Ghost Hunter will be another character coming later.
then we have the 1 in 25 Teague variant. They keep doing these video game sort of homages. And we're selling this one for $20.
I want to play a game like that with Peacekeeper 1 and Peacekeeper X, and it's like Contra. And you got the 2 characters,
I
they're
love
just bouncing
Contra.
back and forth.
Oh man, those games
I've played
are great.
a lot of Contra. Okay, so, I mean, it's hard to say that, oh, this is my pick of the week, because this is usually my pick of the week. And I'll just say this has the all-star position of pick of the week whenever it comes out. I'll let you know if anything changes. But this is a Nice House on the Left. Nice House on the Left? No, that's... this is Nice House on the Lake.
We're just bumbling through
I
this show
know.
today.
There's too many the horror movie references. Nice House on the Lake, issue number 5. So we are getting close to, I think, the halfway mark. I think there's going to be a big break after 6. It's going to be a couple month break. But this is a great issue because this is when we get a lot of characters talking to each other. That's one of the moments in like a horror movie or something. You're like, if this person would just tell this person what they saw, we could be on better ground now. This is a really interesting issue because they finally kind of get it out there in the open. So there is something that happened at the end of the last one, a pretty grisly thing, but they have learned now that the people in the house maybe can't die. They heal, kind of like Wolverine style. And so it's just constant state of like, there's not even an escape to this place they're in. They can't get out anyway. They can't even take themselves out of it. And is that horrifying? Is that a good thing? Well, when that happened, they kind of figure out we need to put all our cards on the table. People have secrets. We need to let everyone know everything. So there is a great 2-page spread. This book has done a lot of interesting, very similar to Department of Truth, that are, you'll see notes, you'll see, in this one, a whiteboard that takes up the 2 things, and it has listed everything they know, what their theories are, and I feel like, I forgot what book you were talking about before, but when the characters in the book have a theory that you have, chances are that's not going to happen. It's one of those like...
That was in Crossover.
Yeah.
The latest issue of Crossover.
So they have that where they list all the things, and there's this mysterious character, Walter, that has brought them all there, and it seems to kind of be controlling how they live in this house. And so they have all their theories about, what is Walter? Is he an alien? Is he an extra-dimensional being? Is he all of this stuff? And I feel like now that they've listed it all, it's like, well, it can't be any of those. So it's a really cool thing to get all the knowledge kind of flowing. You get different characters' ideas about what other characters have seen in previous issues. And it is revealed by one of the characters that they have seen the other house on the lake, which is this giant black, seems to be glass building that when he took kind of a walk around the perimeter, he saw. And they all decide, we're all going to go there and see it. And it's funny because a lot of the stuff that they've shown here and there, like, there was this resource room that had guns and had explosives and everything. All of that, they are going to now bring into the story. So this is, you could tell we're getting close to that halfway mark where probably something big is going to happen in the next issue. Something really big happens in the last few pages of this one that is definitely going to change how things in this book are gonna be going forward. But once again, it's just a stellar issue of Nice House on the Lake, or as I like to call it, Nice House on the Left. Probably just a nice house for sale somewhere.
I called Steve Trevor Steve Taylor.
I think you're thinking of Tom Taylor or something and mixing with Steve Trevor. But great issue. I believe it has a variant, but I think we're already sold out of it. So there's that one.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about Pirate Queen #2. Second issue of the new series from Bad Idea. And this, I enjoyed the first one. I told pretty much everyone, if you want a bloody pirate's tale of revenge, this is for you. This follows, her name is Monday Ryan. She's a female pirate. And in the last issue, her husband, who she really did love, was murdered. They were both pirates together. So I guess as in love as pirates
Those who
can
pirate
be.
together stay together.
So she now blames the person who murdered him because it was like a British admiral official who had caught them. And she had made a deal, well, if I do this thing, I won't say what, you can probably imagine, you'll let my husband live. And he made the deal, but then he, of course, killed her husband. So this issue is a flashback as to how she survived from last issue on. They marooned her in the middle of the ocean. We get to see what she endured, what she went through, and it all leads up to her finally catching up with someone who might be able to give her information on where this British admiral is. This is just a well-told story. It's bloody and violent, but not overtly, not too much. It's about how you would expect. I mean, if you like pirate stuff, past like Muppets Treasure Island, if you want some blood in your pirate stuff, this has it without going too far. I think that Monday Ryan is a good character. On top of this vengeance quest, she is also with child, so that complicates things. Although she shows how she can use that to her advantage in certain ways. Certain people underestimating her when they see her in that condition. So very good second issue. The art is excellent. It's just a good dark tale of piracy and revenge. As with all Bad Idea books, it has a backup story. It's a short backup story by Matt Kent. You never know what their backup stories are going to be. They never tell you.
They can be
nothing.
crazy.
Yeah, so this one is called Spear Origin Point. And it is a sci-fi tale about a person who knows they're in a simulation. So different than The Matrix. Very different than The Matrix, though. So you just have to check that out for yourself. So that's Pirate Queen #2.
That's cool because I know when you talked about #1, that was your big thing you said was how well told it was, how clear and how...
Same deal. This is just, you read it and you forget you're reading something. It doesn't jar you out of the reading to have to stumble over some weird words or to have to go back. It's just, you just really immerse yourself.
I call things readable sometimes. It sounds crazy for a piece of literature to be readable, but you know it when you read it that you don't stumble at all. You just get drawn to the story. The dialogue kind of disappears and you're just hearing the voices. That's a sign of a good writer and a well-told story. So my next one is The Last Book You'll Ever Read, #3. Now, I did not get to read this one as closely as I would like, but I've really enjoyed this book so far. It is so weird. It's so dark and kind of twisted, so uncomfortable, but, I mean, really well told. The art is awesome in it, and in this one, it looks like if there was any kind of supernatural elements in it to begin with, those have now kind of risen to the surface in this book, and it looks like we're finally learning a little bit more about I don't know if she's a protagonist or antagonist, but the author of this book that's been causing such widespread chaos in the world after people read it. Looks like we learn a little bit more about her, so I'm excited to actually sit down and read this all the way because I've enjoyed first 2 issues. And it does have some variants. So we have the Hickman variant. And then, of course, without opening it, we have the polybagged variant. A lot of people have been getting the polybag variants, and they're selling out fast.
Okay, so I read Deadpool Black, White, and Blood #3. I was really looking forward to this one because it has a story in it by Stan Sakai
Yes.
of Usagi Yojimbo fame. So, as with all the Black, White, and Blood tales, it's always multiple stories. This one has 3 stories. In the first one, Deadpool is looking for his missing penguin. He has a penguin friend.
Of course he does.
Keeping up with Deadpool. He has a penguin friend, and he's missing. And he's convinced that the penguin is being held at a penguin convent, if that is a thing, or if it even exists. He doesn't want to
all
really
be inside his head.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to hear. Somebody tries to talk to him about it. He doesn't want to hear there isn't such a thing. You know, they literally go on a hunt for this penguin convent. And sure enough, they discover some sort of convent, and things get very, very bloody there. The second story is with Deadpool runs into Bullseye, and they're both on the same mission. They're both hired by somebody to kill the same target. And he's like, "Oh, great, you're here too." The guy who never misses. And they get in an argument over who is going to collect the money if they win, if they can do the thing. So right away, it's great. They're competing, but in a fun way. A lot of good dialogue. To get to their target, though, they have to get through ridiculous rooms. You know, one is full of ninjas, one's full of sharks, one's full of zombies. There's a room full of insane monkeys. And, of course, things don't go how either one expects. It doesn't end the way that either of them wants it to end. So that was a great one. The third one is the one by Stan Sakai, and it tells the story of how Deadpool gets his swords.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, we've seen Deadpool use those swords forever.
Mm-hmm.
Where did they come from? And let's just say it wasn't the first weapon he picked out. He tries out a bunch of them, and Stan Sakai does all the art for it as well. So it was really cool to see him in that style.
Yeah, I had to take a glance at it and read the Stan Sakai story, and it is all the fun that you would imagine from a Stan Sakai story. Even the over-the-top violence is charming, maybe?
Yeah, it's his cartoony
His cartooniness style. Is just is charming all around.
So here is the LaRocca variant. And we also have... We only have one of these. $35 for the 1 in 25 Stan Sakai variant.
I almost wonder if that is that Devil Dinosaur.
Doesn't appear in the story, but, you know, could be.
Samurai version.
Yeah.
So something I gotta show off that came out. This is Echolands #1, the second print. I pretty much hand sold out our #1 first printing. So if you did get a chance to read it, highly recommend you pick up this. Issue 2 is also out. It is also great. I think this one, if it continues the way it's going, this one's going to be talked about for a long time for its art and its interesting storytelling. So if you missed #1 or you want to get all of them, here you go. This is #1 second print of Echolands.
Okay, so this book took me by surprise. This is DC Horror Presents Soul Plumber #1 of 6. So it's a 6-issue series. So check out the cover, because I will say I want to talk about a different art style than what I've been talking about. This is more like a frantic, scratchy art style. Mm-hmm. And again, it fits this book. I have many things to say on this. So this book, this is what the show's all about. I think this is very much for some people and possibly not at all for certain other people, depending on who you are. This is very dark humored, especially for DC. I mean, like real dark humored, a lot of cursing, more than I've seen in just about any DC book ever, I would say. So our main character, his name is Edgar, and it's easy to miss that. I think it is mentioned one time. Everybody else, you get their names, but Edgar, it's more about what he's into. He's obsessed with his interpretation of God's word and trying to save people. He went to seminary and he got kicked out. There's something a little wrong with Edgar. Okay,
Yeah.
first off, he got kicked out, and now he works at a gas station because he thinks that gas is like fuel for your car's soul or something. So, what is a soul plumber? I'll tell you, he comes across a guy who invites him to a seminar where they're selling another way to save people called soul plumbing. So he goes to this thing, and they have this device made where they claim that they can use it to reach into people and grab the demons that are messed up in them. Now, the question is it a scam? Is it for real? Well, Edgar is poor. He can't afford, like, of course, after the seminar, it's like, pay us all this money,
Yeah.
and then we'll teach you how to do it. Well, he doesn't have the money, so he's going to have to break a commandment or two to get the plans to make his own. And of course, because he's got a few screws loose, when you see him build it, it doesn't look right.
He's
There's
not
no
doing it
way
right.
this is right. In fact, the one they're using isn't even for real. Is the whole thing a scam? You'll have to read to find out. But I will tell you, when Edgar builds his own, what happens if his actually starts doing something? His crazed device. So wild story, but really, it's the dark humor and cursing and all. I mean, it's like a Garth Ennis book times two.
Wow.
Yeah, for a DC book. And for instance, like there's a guy who has no nose. Okay, so it's real gross to see him. He has like stuff trickling out of it nonstop, and he's telling Edgar about how proud he is to have no nose, and how he listens to this guy on the radio who he believes in, and because of his advice, he tries to say the F word 100 times every day. That's just one of the colorful characters you'll meet in this book. That'll either have you laughing or have you running away.
I was about to say, are you putting the book down and walking away?
Correct.
Yeah.
I compare it a bit to Red Room. It's less violence and more just like messed up characters and people who have messed up thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So not that Red Room they don't have.
I mean, they've got plenty of that themselves.
Just different. So real different book for DC. Some of you like some indie stuff, and you have that really sick sense of humor. You're gonna love it. It is not disjointed where when you read it you're like, what's going on? This is too artsy. It's not that way at all. But then those of you who don't want that, then yeah, just don't even worry about it.
And it's by the people who do the last podcast on the left. Speaking of why maybe I was thinking about that, but I know they have a huge fan base, and we've had calls all day asking if it came out.
Yep. So here is the Neely variant. There's our main character, Edgar. Maybe those tentacles are a demon he's pulling out of a soul or something like that. Doesn't happen in this book. Might be, upcoming. And then we have the 1 in 25 Rossimo variant that we're selling for $35. The guy without the nose, he's at the top. At least a lot of it's close-ups of his face and what it looks like to not have a nose.
Oh, fun. I believe my final thing to go over is a cover that people will probably want to know about because really cool.
Yeah,
so
this is great.
The popularity of the book Stray Dogs from Image was, well predicted by me. I will forever toot my own horn that I read the first issue and highly recommended it, and now it's like one of the biggest books, hard to get. But this is a variant by the artist Fleecs that has these stray dogs or some dogs on there done in their style. And this is actually crossing over companies too.
I know.
Red Sonja is a Dynamite book, and Stray Dogs was an Image book. But there's a few of these variants coming out for different books that have the dogs on them. So I feel like this is going to go fast. People have been trying to get all of Stray Dogs. I mean, it's inevitable something's going to happen with that book because it was so good. The animation style is already there. It's getting another volume coming up. Even our first shipment of the graphic novels, we sold out in a day. So keep an eye out for Stray Dogs. And this is your regular variant for Red Sonja number 2. And then there is probably going to be the other one that if you got to get them all, you got to get this one. This is the Virgin variant that we're selling to our customers for $25. But you'll definitely, I mean, I think this is just a great pickup just with the popularity of Stray Dogs. I don't think we've seen the upper limits of how popular that series is going to be. So, really cool crossover. There's more coming. There's that Army of Darkness cover with the dogs coming out too. So, if you're wanting to get all of the covers that tie in with Stray Dogs, it starts with this one.
Okay, the last one I'm going to talk about is Eternals Celestia. This is another one-shot about the Eternals. They've been doing that lately. Mm-hmm. The last one they did told the story of where Thanos came from, and it had a lot to do with the Eternals and how they cannot have children and why that is. Thanos might be the reason. Because the time they tried, they had Thanos. So this story, so it's a one-shot, and so the Celestials ages ago, they made 100 Eternals and they made 100 Deviants and they put them on the Earth for a supposed purpose. Well, lately, as per the latest Eternals ongoing series, they have learned that most everything they believed in is lies, and that the gods that they worshipped are no longer, haven't cared about them in forever, and have abandoned them for all intents and purposes. The Eternals are trying to come up with a purpose to who they are after thinking they were doing this really important thing on Earth. This comic goes more into that. It follows one of their most holy characters as they experience just a big problem now that this information, they're trying to live with this information. There's also an appearance of the Avengers of 1 million BCE in this.
Oh, I love those.
Yep. The Eternals, as they are eternal, they were around back then. So you get some flashbacks. And then there's another appearance by Ghost Rider, but in the present day, where some things go down with that. What I'll say about these Eternal one-shots, they are what I would consider to be a challenging read. Marvel is hiring good writers to try to even out everything about them, set them up how they need to be set up now that movies coming out and they're going to be players in the MCU. And it's just hard to go in without knowing a lot about them. So if you don't know a bunch about the Eternals, you're going to need to turn to your wiki pages or something. But if you're looking for a challenging read and to learn about these characters that have sort of a rich background before the movies come out, these are the ones you need to read about. Because that's what they're doing with these one-shots. They're really just sort of, hey, everyone, if you read these, you'll kind of know what's going on. But it is a lot to take in. Yeah. If you read it and your head's spinning a little, mine was too. And that's it. That is our show for today. So thank you all for joining us. If you're on YouTube and we have been helpful to you in knowing what to pick up from your comic store tomorrow or whatever day you make it out there, hit subscribe. We appreciate that. We'll be back on Friday with Comics from the Future, where we go over all the upcoming comics while they are still open order, meaning you can order as many of them as you want. Oh, but in between now and then, we're having our special show with Alex Ogle, who did the great variant for Amazing Spider-Man number 75. So look for that to go up on our site tomorrow.
Yes. So really exciting. Let us know in the comments what book you're most excited about reading, what covers you like, all of that. We'd love to talk to you about all that fun stuff. We talk about comics. We never stop talking about comics. That's just our lives. So.
And in general, we try to keep it positive too. Yeah. A lot of channels, a lot of complaining about things. It's easy to do that. Instead we think every book is for somebody, but then again, there are books that are not for people. So, all right, well, until next time, have a great day and go read some comics.